Friends, I am Sanjay Bhagwan Mansukhani from Kolkata. I am a teacher of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and I am part of ChangeDestiny.in. We feel strongly that it is possible to change your destiny by simply going into yourself and understanding yourself and your mind better. And once you are able to do that, then magic happens in your life. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are the ancient science of the mind from the land of India. It has 196 sutras, 196 concise, powerful statements, which explains the working of the mind at the very deepest level possible. There is no literature in the world which can match or even come near to the depth of what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are talking about. Dear friends, today is Guru Purnima Day. And on this auspicious occasion, I would like to pay reverence to all the Gurus who have helped me to be here, to receive this knowledge and to be in a position to serve humanity so that this world becomes a better place. Dear friends, today we are going to talk about something which is very fundamental, extremely fundamental to the workings of the mind, our actions in the world outside and their resulting effects, their results, their impact which they have on our current life and the kind of impact they have on our future lives. So let's look at what Patanjali is saying about karma at an advanced level. The preliminary level of karma, I'm sure all of you know. It's all about the law of action. You act and there is a corresponding result, effect outside. So it's all about cause and effect. But here we'll go into a bit of detail. There are two sutras specifically which cover this topic. I'm referring to Sutra number 6 and Sutra number 7 of the 4th chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Dear friends, this 4th chapter is a chapter which focuses on Kaivalya, liberation, that is how to achieve absolute independence of the mind. Absolute independence of the entire creation. And who is looking for this absolute independence? It is the soul, it is the Atma, it is the Purusha which wants complete independence, liberation, Kaivalya, Mukti from the mind and body combination, the mind and matter creation. So dear friends, let us look at these two sutras. I begin with the 6th sutra. Here he says that there are 5 types of minds. There are 5 types of minds which acquire siddhis, and we had seen that. But only that mind which is born of meditation, which comes as a result of samadhi, has no storehouse of karma, has no karma share. So if you remember in the first chapter of this Kaivalya Pada, the chapter on liberation, we had seen that siddhis are attained by 5 different means, and it is only the siddhis which are obtained through meditation that have a long-term impact and effect. But the others, the siddhis which are acquired because of birth, because of herbs, because of mantras and because of austerities, they are short-lived and they have their repercussions. So Vyasa, one of the first commentators, prominent commentators on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, says that if the mind has been able to achieve these siddhis through the practice of concentration, meditation and samadhi, then that person, that yogi, is free from vice and virtue. He is free from the result, from the effect of his actions. He is free from dharma or adharma, because there is no karma getting created out here. There is no storage of karma in such a chitta. So what it essentially means is that if you have achieved your siddhis through the practice of dhyana, meditation, then your mind is free of all sanskaras. Your mind is free of all residual effects of life experiences. And now there is no storehouse of karma present in the chitta. And this eventually means that such a person is not generating any karma. Such a person is free from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, dear friends, it is possible that a person may show siddhis which he has gained as a result of his birth, the aushadhi he has taken, the mantras he has recited, and the various tapasya he has gone through. But such a person is not free from kleshas. Kleshas are the fundamental obstacles on the path of yoga. Kleshas are the fundamental sanskaras in us, which are inborn, which are there in us right from birth. And it is the klesha which results in all forms of action in the sanskara, in this sansara. And it is the klesha which actually provokes karma and the results of karma in our life. So such people who have siddhis but also have kleshas, and because of these kleshas present in them, they are constantly generating karma. So such persons may have tremendous powers, miraculous powers, supernatural powers, but when it comes to this sansara, when it comes to this life, they are even then helpless. Why? Because the law of karma is working on them. There is no way they can escape from it. Because the kleshas are present, therefore the karmas are happening, and therefore the karmas are getting stored, and therefore he will have pain and suffering in life, he will have a rebirth, he is not going to get liberation, he is not going to get kevalya, even though such a person has supernatural powers and siddhis. Now, dear friends, one good example which is often quoted here is on Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu underwent tremendous tapasya, and with that tremendous tapasya he was able to acquire supernatural powers and siddhis. But these supernatural powers and siddhis was not put to the right use. It was used to trouble others. It was used to trouble, in fact, the entire universe. And this also meant he troubled his saint son Prahlad. And because this particular demon king, Hiranyakashipu, could not tolerate his son's devotion towards Vishnu. Even look at the case of Ravana. Ravana, as we know from Ramayana, was destroyed by Rama, and Rama was an avatar of Vishnu. But Ravana had supernatural powers. Ravana had supernormal mystic powers which he had performed by doing tremendous tapasya, tremendous austerities. And such is the case with all the major demons in Hindu folklore, in Hindu stories. Dear friends, When a yogi is achieving the siddhis as a byproduct, as a side effect of his practicing dhyana, then such a yogi is free from kleshas. And since he is free from kleshas, he is free from the consequences of kleshas. And since he is free from the consequences of kleshas, he is not generating any new karma. Such a yogi is on the path to moksha, to liberation, to freedom. Therefore, friends, I would say to you in short, the yogic tradition of India and most of the other traditions of ancient India, they have always taken this stand, this position, that yogis who are real, who have achieved their powers through dhyana, they do not display their powers. And therefore, if anybody is displaying their powers of siddhis, is trying to entice people, is trying to manipulate the gullible people, then you can be rest assured that those siddhis have accrued to him through a combination of birth, the aushadhi which he has taken, mantras and tapasya. And it is only in very, very rare circumstances that the display of siddhis is not considered the sign of being an enlightened being. So dear friends, as we saw here, that different kinds of minds, based on different ways they have come about in this existence, or based on the different actions these minds have taken, they can accrue supernormal powers, they can accrue siddhis. But it is only, and there's only one way out of this, it is only if those siddhis have come out of the practice of meditation, out of the practice of samadhi, then only those siddhis have not produced any karma, and those siddhis have burnt away all the sanskaras of the yogi. So this particular yogi now has no kleshas, and it is the kleshas which cause karma, which create the birth of karma, and it is this karma which has impact, which has a result on what happens in our mind and what happens in our life. So our life essentially is a circle, is a chakram of vritti, sanskara, karma, chakra. So the vrittis, the thoughts, the ideas, the small experiences create sanskaras, create memories. They in turn create karma. They create action in the physical world outside, and these karma on their own as a result create more vrittis, more sanskaras, more karmas, and this is the cycle. This cycle keeps on rolling out in the world outside, and this cycle is also called the cycle of jivana. This is what life is all about. This is how life gets created for us. Now let's look at the next sutra, the 7th sutra of the 4th chapter. Here again, Patanjali has given a unique, I would say, interpretation, a unique consideration of the various types of karma which are possible. So the karmas have been decided into 4 categories. Number 1 is the white karma. Number 2 is the black karma. Number 3 is a karma which is a mix of white and black. And number 4 is a karma which is neither white nor black. Yes. So now let us look at what are these white and black karmas and what are the combinations of this white and black karmas we are talking about. Again, Vyasa, the primary commentator of the Yoga Sutras, refers to these 4 types of karmas, and he says black karma essentially consists of evil acts, and they are performed by the wicked-minded people, by the evil people. Now, black and white karma is the performance of both evil as well as holy, pious deeds, pious acts. Therefore, dear friends, in everyday action, people normally in the external world usually act towards others with a sense of pious acts and holy acts, but only in cases where it turns out that they are facing certain pressure because of the drive towards self-preservation, towards self-gratification, then they may cause harm or some sort of suffering on any level to other people around them. So these people are said to form both kinds of karma, the black and the white. Now here Hariharananda, one of the I would say later day commentators, he has said, you see, when you are tilling the soil, then while tilling the soil, it is likely that many insects in that soil may get killed, may lose their life. So similarly, people who are performing karma in the external world, in the world outside, in their routine activities, some people may have some suffering, some pain, some loss because of these karma, these actions. Therefore, it is natural for people living in the world and acting in the world outside to have a combination of black and white karma. Now let us look at what is purely white karma. It is called Shukla karma, and the black karma is called Krishna karma. So Shukla karma, white karma, is essentially internal. It is not determined by our actions on other people in the outer external world. And here the cause of the karma is purely the mind alone. The mind produces the effects of the white karma. And Vyasa says that one may do austerities, one may do self-study, and one may do Ishvara Pranidhana, which will lead to white karma. Now all those who know this can connect that these 3 practices which Patanjali is talking about are essentially the 3 practices of Kriya Yoga. So these 3 practices of Kriya Yoga, Kriya here means action. So these 3 practices which are action based is what Patanjali has suggested in the Sadhana Pada, in the 2nd chapter on sadhana, on the practice by which one can achieve samadhi and one can go forward to moksha, to liberation. And there he said Kriya Yoga has 3 elements. The first element is tapas, the second is swa adhyay, and the third element is Ishvara Pranidhana. So when we do tapas, we are disciplining our body, our senses and our mind. We are putting it under certain strict, I would say, rules of operation. We may control the food we take. We may control the water intake we have. We may control certain timings on these activities. We may control our speaking also. We may do austerities like standing on one leg for 24 hours. So these kind of penances, these kind of tapas, which puts pressure on the body, mind and the senses, they purify these three, body, mind and senses, and they stop the inflow of negative karma, black karma of others into our system. So therefore, when the black karma of others is not entering and you are generating white karma from inside you, then all karma will be white, all karma will be pious, all karma will be absolutely holy out here. Now there is a situation where a yogi, because of his sadhana, because of his dharana, dhyan, samadhi and samayama, has reached a state where now no new karmas are being formed, and because his kleshas have got destroyed, those fundamental sanskaras which were causing thoughts to form, which were causing action to take place, which were causing his life to move on, they have stopped being formed. Now since they are no longer formed, such a person has renounced all fruits of various activities he has been doing, and having renounced all fruits of all activities, such a person does not receive either black or white karma. He is free from all forms of karma. And Vijnana Bhikshu, a prominent commentator here, says that just by putting on the clothes of a sadhu, but without giving up his personal greed, hunger and desires, one does not start generating white karma. And he goes further. He says that the wise man is one who knows the truth and does not speak excessively. He is sporting his Atman. He knows where his Atma is. He is in connection with that. And he is delighted with this Atman. And such a person now, when he performs work and work in the world of people and objects outside, he is one of the best knowers of the Supreme Soul, of Ishvara, of his own soul, the Atma, the Purusha. And having given up attachment in all forms to the fruits of his work, such a yogi is now performing action. He is there in the world, involved in worldly activities, and he is using his body, his mind, his intelligence, and now his purified senses, and for the sole purpose of purifying himself, his soul, his Atman, his Purusha. All other means by which siddhis have been acquired, the all other four means which we saw, the means of birth, aushadhi, herbs, mantras and tapasya, all these four types, they produce three kinds of karmas, and they produce black karma, they produce white karma, and they also produce a mixed kind of karma. And here you see all kinds of actions are happening, all kinds of actions are forming, and they are being formed by the ahankara, they are being formed by the ego. And ego, ahankara, is one part of the kleshas. It is called the asmita. So as long as, friends, there is the kleshas and they are creating actions in us, and more specifically in a more detailed way, when we have a false sense of ego, when we have a false sense of self, when we believe that our body-mind combination is actually our true self, and it is not the soul, not the Atman, not the Purusha, then it leads to complications. Here now the good and the bad, both acts start happening, and both kinds of karmas are generated by ahankara, because ahankara considers itself to be the doer, and when it considers itself to be the doer, then the results of action also come up on top of it. all action results, whether they are good or they are bad, they come and hit the ego, the ahankara of this particular Siddha person. There has been a lot of quotations by commentators about the Gita, because Gita speaks at very length about the karma, about karma yoga. So there are certain references to the Bhagavad Gita which I would like to bring to your kind attention. You know, as per the Gita, when a yogi is always satisfied, when he has no dependency, when he has given up all forms of attachment to the fruits of action, to the fruits of activity, though the yogi is engaged in action, engaged in activity, he is physically there in the world day in and day out, but he is not attached to the results of that activity. And since he is not attached to the results of that activity, he is free. He is not generating karma. So dear friends, it has always been prescribed that one must perform karma without any action, without any attachment. One must perform karma with a complete sense of renunciation. And once when we are able to do that, we are not running after the fruits of our action, then we find that our action results in sattvic activity in us. And a yogi who remains fixed, whose mind is fixed, whose concentration is fixed, and his mind does not waver, he is not undisturbed by the gunas now. The gunas are the fluctuations, the constant changes which keeps on happening in Prakriti. And we are living in Prakriti. My body is Prakriti, my mind is Prakriti, my soul is not Prakriti. So we are actually living in an ocean of Prakriti. The soul is swimming in Prakriti, in the mind and body and matter combo. So dear friends, we are always exposed to the three gunas, the three fluctuations of Prakriti. They are Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. But a yogi, he knows that these are the gunas of Prakriti acting, and he does not engage with them. He displays a sense of aloofness. He behaves like a witness, and he understands and realizes these are only the changes of the gunas, and they actually have got nothing to do with him. So dear friends, Gita also tells us that the desires which we talk about in Karma Yoga, they are situated in the senses, they are there in the mind, they are there in the intelligence. Now this is the subtle body portion of a human being, the senses, the mind and the intelligence. That means our subtle form, our subtle body is the house where desires get generated in us, and it is not our soul, our Purusha, our Atma which has desires, because as you know, our soul, our Atma is unchangeable, is non-changing, and it is eternal in nature, and therefore it is absolutely complete. There is no shortcoming, there is no need for desires in the soul state. So Patanjali here tells us that the desires are actually a result, a product, an output of the misidentification of our own mind and body as being the original self. This is not the true self. The true self is the Atma, the true self is the soul, the true self is the Purusha. And the Atma, the soul, the Purusha has no desire. It cannot have desires. All desires come from the mind. Therefore, once when a yogi is operating from the zone of the Purusha, the soul, then there are no actions coming forth, and there is no karma therefore there. Therefore, dear friends, one must understand that karmas come only when we have a desire. Desire comes because we have kleshas. Kleshas happen in us right from birth. A baby is born with kleshas. So now what is the goal? What is the object of this life of ours? The goal of this life of ours is to keep on working on the inner mind, to keep on working on the chitta, to keep on purifying the chitta of all that is rajasic and tamasic in nature. And as the inner chitta, as the inner mind becomes pure, becomes free from disturbances, becomes free from the vrittis, then we find the action stops. But we are even there, then living there in that world, in that universe. But we are not creating new karma in us. We are not creating karma which can have an impact on the world outside. And then there is the end to the cycle of vritti, sanskar, karma. Then there, that is the area, that is the point when jivana can come to a standstill, life can come to a stop, because now no new karmas are being formed, no new karmas are being acted out in the world outside. It is only the earlier which have already been there, which are slowly, steadily rolling out into the world or being burnt by that yogi who has acquired siddhis, but through the route of meditation, through the route of samadhi. So dear friends, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We are doing these talks to help people know and realize that through the study of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, it is possible to acquire permanent happiness in our life. And we hope and pray that by listening to these talks, you will be able to achieve that kind of permanent happiness in your own life. And you will be able to share this permanent happiness with the members of your family, with other people in your society, with people of your country and the people of the world at large. And then we can hope to have a globe, a planet which is happy, and we can hand over such a happy planet to our forthcoming generations. I thank you again for being here. See you tomorrow, same time at 7 p.m. with another topic from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. You may put your questions here if you wish in the comments column. We will reply to your queries on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. By practicing what Patanjali is suggesting, we will not only be healing our own body, mind and soul, but dear friends, we will be healing the area in which we are operating upon. So thank you once again. God bless each one of you. See you tomorrow.